He brought up Joe Biden in his call with Ukraine's president on July 25th.
It was a perfect call. A perfect call. What wasn't perfect is the horrible thing that Joe Biden said. And now he made a lie when he said he never spoke to his son. I mean, give me a break.
Democrat Jim Himes sits on the House Intelligence Committee.
Extorting a foreign leader for the purposes of getting that leader to do your political work, to try to find dirt on your opponent, is extortion.
And grounds for impeachment, Himes says. President Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, tells Fox Business he can't say with 100% certainty that the president did not threaten to cut off aid to Ukraine, but he says the phone call itself is not grounds for impeachment. The latest poll in the Democratic presidential race has Elizabeth Warren now neck and neck with Biden in Iowa.
Technically, Warren took the lead, but the top two candidates are now in a statistical tie in a key state on the road to the nomination. They also joined striking United Auto Workers members on a picket line yesterday, competing for the support of that critical voting bloc. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign is reportedly pessimistic about winning Michigan again. Politico now says the Trump campaign is looking at other battlegrounds he lost last time, like Minnesota and New Hampshire. In Washington, I'm Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
Global News 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is Bloomberg.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
25 years ago, NJIT graduate Dick Sweeney co-founded Keurig Green Mountain, a company whose incredible innovations changed the way the world brews a cup of coffee. Today, he lectures widely on business leadership and is a strong advocate for NJIT's work to combine business education with the power of STEM.
NJIT is definitely fostering the innovative thinking for budding entrepreneurs simply because that's the world we live in. NJIT is producing students that have been trained, educated, and given the business acumen to be a contributor to a company. The distinct mission is to develop great STEM scholars. The attributes I've always looked for in team members are heart, smarts, guts, and luck. So we want people with passion, intelligence, courage, and never discount luck. The student coming out of NJIT has experienced all of that.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at storiesofinnovation.njit.edu.
In-depth analysis.
1 in 4 children believe potatoes grow on trees. 1 in 5 children believe fish fingers are made from chicken. And 1 in 8 adults believe the moon landings didn't happen. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
At Jet2.com, we're proud to be named TripAdvisor's best UK airline for the 3rd year running. Discover 64 great destinations from 9 UK airports. Book now from only £49. Jet2.com. Friendly low fares. Price one way, including taxes. Subject to availability and conditions.
Working on a tablet has never been so good, whatever you're doing. With the Samsung Galaxy Tab S6, you've got all the power of a PC. It's sleek, slender and stylish, with a battery life of up to 14 hours. But it's not all work, you know. Get creative with the advanced S Pen, or enjoy better gaming and movies with its epic 10.5-inch screen and quad AKG speakers. We'll also give you an extra £50 off the Tab S6 when you trade in your old tablet or laptop at Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
To succeed in small business, you need technology that runs efficiently. When you partner with a Dell Small Business Technology Advisor, you get advice, one-on-one partnership, and tailored productivity solutions, including computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage, networking, plus industry-leading monitors and accessories. It's how they help your small business make the most of every minute. To speak with an advisor today, call 0800 085 4878. That's 0800 085 4878.
Only on Dave.
We have taken the titles of famous, intellectual, proper lectures and asked our guests to write their own versions.
I'm Ed Gamble, and I suffer from unwanted arousal.
Every wrestler has got to have a good catchphrase. Wayne! And the dirt is gone.
The least harmful of lies is the white lie, because even language is very racist.
It's comedy for the brain. Comedians giving lectures Wednesdays at 10 on Dave.
Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden.
Hard breakfast. Tom Hanks is our special guest.
You're either being punished or rewarded. I'll let you decide.
I did do a whole show of grease on my front lawn when I was a kid. We charged everyone 10p. We raised a fiver, and I gave it to Bishop's Waltham Gymnastics Club towards a new crash mat.
Do they get the crash mat?
I mean, it took a couple more years, but yeah.
It does happen to normal people like you. You've won £20,000. Well done.
I love this game.
Hard breakfast
with Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden. Weekdays from 6:30. Listen on your radio, global player, or smart speaker.
Play hard.
Is the sound of tiny pieces of gravel crunching and popping against one another underneath the sport-style wheels of the new Ford Focus ST stimulating your senses into a spine-tinglingly relaxed state? No? Or maybe its powerful engine and the latest technology might help you relax instead. Contact your local Ford dealer to find out more about the new Focus ST and experience a new way to relax.
Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm John Tucker in the Bloomberg Newsroom with this Bloomberg Business Flash. U.S. stocks are slightly lower in early trading. Investors pulling back a bit amid worries about the trade war as well as some growth concerns. Healthcare, communications, and the bank stops are all dipping with health insured United Health falling over 1%. And higher bond prices pushing yields on the 10-year Treasury notes. Now, President Trump speaking at the United Nations. Let's go live to the UN and listen in.
Get in, because they will take this great deal that we're about to make, and they would really have themselves a deal for themselves. So let me just tell you, what Biden did was wrong.
What did you tell the Ukrainian president about Joe Biden and his son during your phone call?
Well, you're going to see, because what we are doing is we want honesty. And if we deal with a country, we want honesty. And I think with the new president, you're going to see much more honesty in the Ukraine. And that's what we're looking for. We're supporting a country. We want to make sure that country is honest. It's very important to talk about corruption. If you don't talk about corruption, why would you give money to a country that you think is corrupt? One of the reasons the new president got elected is he was going to stop corruption. So it's very important that on occasion you speak to somebody about corruption. Very important.
Are you willing to clear this up by releasing the whistleblower report?
Quiet. Go ahead.
When are you going to meet with Kim Jong-un?
Could happen soon.
Will you let the
could happen soon. It could happen soon.
Meeting with the Iranian.
What was the question?
That was President Trump speaking to reporters as he arrives at the United Nations. Let's switch gears now to WeWork. Talk about a company that's had a rough couple of weeks. First of all, its valuation appears to have been stressed dramatically from $47 billion to what might be something in the $10 to $15 billion range. Now even the the CEO is under pressure to resign. So let's get the latest. We bring in Shira Ovide. She is a technology columnist for Bloomberg Opinion, joining us here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. So, Shira, it's been a tough couple of weeks for this company, for this CEO. What's the latest here? Because it looks like the board might be meeting today.
Yes, that is the latest that our colleagues at Bloomberg News and other news outlets have reported, that the WeWork board is meeting maybe as early as today. And one of the things they may talk about is removing Adam Neumann, or pressuring Adam Neumann, who's the co-founder and CEO of the company, to step down from the CEO position, which is just the latest very weird twist in what has been a very, very weird corporate saga.
So is he being basically the fall guy here?
It does feel that way. I mean, the thing to understand about all this is that there's ultimately two players that matter in WeWork. And that is WeWork's Adam Neumann, the co-founder and CEO, and Masayoshi Son, who's the head of SoftBank, which is WeWork's biggest outside investor. And Son, until I guess now, has been Adam Neumann and WeWork's biggest backer, in the face of resounding doubts from many other people, including SoftBank's own investors in its very large Vision Fund investment fund. And Masa has stood by Neumann. Again, something must have changed in the calculus of Son and SoftBank. I do not know what it is, but it's clear that they are turning.
$45 billion to $10 billion.
That would do it.
Yeah, we'll do it.
The valuation cut, I think, is probably the thing that would change the minds of even sort of idiosyncratic billionaires like Masayoshi Son.
So in reality, though, they can't force him out of the CEO spot, can they? Doesn't he still have some super voting stock?
Yes. So I can't pretend to understand the corporate structure and what is or isn't possible. But yes, Adam Neumann controls the votes in this company, and he can remove the entire board. But there is also stipulation that you can see in WeWork's IPO documents that the board has the power to remove the CEO. Now, I don't know how those two things could be in conflict, and so I don't know how to resolve those if it gets to that.
What do you think that Adam Neumann did wrong?
So I don't want to put all the blame on Adam Neumann. Look, this is a company that has been run in rather wild fashion for years. And that was enabled by all of the investors in this company, including SoftBank. And so everything that WeWork is today, which is this cash-burning, maybe financially unsustainable company run by a self-dealing CEO, that was all information that was known and enabled by every investor in this company the last few years, and that top of that list is SoftBank. So everybody deserves blame for the company getting to the position that it is today.
So let's flip it on its head. Is there anything that Adam Neumann brings to WeWork, and frankly, cult of personality among them, that would be problematic if the company was stripped of it?
Yeah, look, I mean, you have to give Adam Neumann credit. Again, it may seem baffling to those of us on the outside, but he has been a very effective pitchman for this company, both with investors and with other business partners and employees. So, again, this company is what it is today because of Adam Neumann, both the good things and the bad things about WeWork. My question is, if you remove Neumann if Neumann is removed or he steps down from the CEO position, do things really change? I mean, this is now a weakened company. Its reputation, I don't think I've ever seen a company, certainly not on the doorstep of an IPO, where the sentiment about it is so relentlessly negative. And in a way, removing the CEO or having the CEO step down is sort of an acknowledgement of how messed up it is. And so I don't know what happens with or without Adam Neumann in the CEO position.
It's interesting. I like your thought that, really his behavior, the company's just the whole rise has been enabled by a whole host of investors led by SoftBank. So to me, the only thing that's changed in the last 2 weeks is the valuation. That's the only thing that's changed. And what that does, it shows that SoftBank mispriced. And the other investors, anything above $10 or $12 billion, that's on them. That's not on Adam Neumann. So one can make an argument, which I'm sure the Adam Neumann camp is going to make, that he is perhaps being used as a scapegoat for what is arguably a flawed business model and a flawed valuation, which the public markets are now shining a light upon.
I think that's absolutely right. Look, this shows you some of the inherent flaws in the SoftBank business model, the SoftBank investment model, which is we train our cash bazookas on these companies, and we make their success inevitable just by virtue of having more capital than anybody else. The downside of that, as you pointed out, is that they have so much money that valuations inherently become inflated, and the downside of that is what happens if nobody else but SoftBank agrees what this company is worth.
And I think what's changed in the private to public thing in 2019 is Uber. It just kind of changed the whole dynamic, which is if you can't convince me, public shareholder to mutual fund in Boston, that you have a path to profitability that I can value, then I have a hard time, giving you the valuation you're looking for. So it's almost a pre-Uber, post-Uber timeframe, and unfortunately for WeWork, they came post.
I think it's a good point. Obviously, we can't go back in time, but I do wonder if Uber hadn't gone out first and kind of fallen a little bit on its face, would the WeWork situation be a little bit different? I would point to, remember Blue Apron from 2 years ago? Yep. That was a company, again, that once it went public, everybody was like, this company doesn't make sense. And then it took a significant valuation haircut and has continued to decline precipitously. So that shows you that Uber wasn't the first time where public investors questioned a highly touted company that had a lot of question marks around its business model.
Shira Ovide, thank you so much for the insight. Shira Ovide, Bloomberg opinion columnist, joining us here in our Interactive Brokers studios. Really smart on the implications here, and Adam Neumann potentially being a fall guy for simply a misvaluation on the part of SoftBank, but really setting up Masayoshi Son versus Adam Neumann. I'm Lisa Abramowitz, alongside my co-host and colleague Paul Sweeney. This is Bloomberg Markets.
What's the
1 in 4 children believe potatoes grow on trees. 1 in 5 children believe fish fingers are made from chicken. And 1 in 8 adults believe the moon landings didn't happen. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Today, your information is more exposed than ever. When you shop, sign in, or browse, you could be vulnerable to cybercriminals. More online threats demand more protection. That's why new Norton 360 provides multiple layers of protection, combining device security, secure VPN, password manager, and cloud backup all in one solution. Get new Norton 360, starting at $24.99 for the first year.
We could play epic music, or we could speak in an overdramatic tone, or even set off fireworks. But that's just not smarty. Instead, we let our offer do the talking. Right now, you can grab 25% off our unlimited data SIM. That's just $18.75 a month with no speed restrictions, no credit check, and no long contract to tie you in. Now that's smarty. Just search Smarty Mobile and switch today. It's easy. Offer available for a limited time only. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Only on Dave.
We have taken the titles of famous, intellectual, proper lectures and asked our guests to write their own versions.
I'm Ed Gamble, and I suffer from unwanted arousal.
Every wrestler has got to have a good catchphrase. Wave! And the dirt is gone.
The least harmful of lies is the white lie, because even language is very racist.
It's comedy for the brain. Comedians giving lectures Wednesdays at 10 on Dave.
I am a force for good.
I am a force for courage.
And for calm.
I am a force for safety.
For fairness.
For leadership.
I am a force for the future.
For compassion.
For my community.
I am a police officer, and I am a force for all.
Be one of the 20,000 new police officers and be a force for all that you believe in. Search Join the Police.
Of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney.
Is there any bank right now in the U.S. that you think is a buy?
Do you think Chairman Powell has lost the market?
Jeff Bezos is no dope. What's the big ka-ching?
The big question, I think, for investors is free cash flow.
Breaking market news and insight from Bloomberg experts.
The U.S. tariffs actually hurt both China and the U.S.
Large strategics are looking to either buy or invest in innovation.
Soybeans and corn have been basically at or below the cost of production for about 4 or 5 years.
What we see more bonds, more yield.
This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Coming up, we'll take a look at those very disappointing German manufacturing numbers that came out this morning, suggesting that the economy may be heading into recession. Plus, we're also going to take a look at a fascinating story. The UK government is deploying, quote, the largest repatriation in peacetime history to bring home more than 150,000 tourists stranded by the collapse of tour operator Thomas Cook. But first, let's go to John Tucker of Bloomberg News for a Bloomberg Business Flash. John.
Yeah, we did get those disappointing readings in Germany and France. That fell far short of the estimates, and that sent stocks in those regions down about 1%. Now, as far as U.S. stocks, they're falling for a second day. Treasuries rising. This is all on mixed American data. The S&P 500 lower amid the IHS market data. And as Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice tells us, its gauge of services employment is pointing to job losses for the first time in almost a decade.
The data show the pace of hiring fell this month to the lowest since December 2009, though service industry growth squeaked out again. That suggests the overall labor market could lose even more momentum after the 4-week average of business hiring dipped at the lowest since 2012. Separately, in a sign of hope for the beleaguered manufacturing sector, the IHS Market Manufacturing PMI advanced to a 5-month high. Vinny Del Giudice, Bloomberg Radio.
Core PCA. This is the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation measure. That's forecast for 1.8%. That we're going to get later in the week, due Friday. That would be the strongest reading since January. Right now, we have the major averages lower. S&P 500 down 5 points. That's down 0.2%. We're at 2986. The Dow's 45 points lower. That's at 26,890. And the Nasdaq Composite Index is down 21 points, down 0.3% at 8,097. As we look at the yields on the benchmark 10-year note, 1.66%. That is lower, also dragging financials down with it as the price increases by 16.30 seconds. We check the markets for you every 15 minutes during the trading day right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker, and that is your Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much, John Tucker. As Sean was mentioning, we are seeing the major averages down. We're also seeing small caps down. Dave Wilson, Bloomberg Stocks Editor, joining us here in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studios. So what's the driver there?
Well, I mean, one thing you can say for sure is that the smaller companies are taking a bigger hit. I mean, they've tended to be more volatile, and they're certainly playing out today. The Russell 2000 index down about 0.4%, while the S&P 500 is lower by just a little bit more than 0.1%. Now, the Russell's steepest drop belongs to Axia Therapeutics, whose ticker is AKCA. The drug developer has fallen almost 22% after its 3 top executives all stepped down. An official of majority owner Ionis Pharmaceuticals was named as interim CEO. Overstock.com, ticker OSTK, has lost about 16%. The online retailer cut its third-quarter profit forecast and said Chief Financial Officer Greg Iverson resigned. And Abeona Therapeutics, ticker ABEO, has dropped about 12.5%. U.S. regulators ordered the drug developer to suspend research on a treatment for a genetic skin disease. The Russell's biggest gain belongs to PriceSmart, ticker PSMT. The operator of Latin American warehouse clubs has risen about 17.5% after being named to the S&P Small Cap 600 index. And Dova Pharmaceuticals, ticker DOVA, has gained 14.5%. H.C. Wainwright raised its 12-month share price estimate on the drug developer by 15% to $45. Even the earlier target was the highest in the Bloomberg survey. And to put that in context, Dova trading at just $17
$14.29 at the moment.
Bloomberg Stocks editor Dave Olson, thank you so much. Well, we had some disappointing economic data coming out of Germany this morning, suffering its worst downturn in almost 7 years as a manufacturing slump deepens, raising pressure on the government to add a fiscal stimulus. To get the latest, we welcome Jamie Rush. Jamie's the chief European economist for Bloomberg Economics based in London. Jamie, thanks so much for joining us. Give us kind of the headline that we need to know about some of this data that came out from Germany today.
Oh, well, the headline is that everything in the survey is awful. The numbers look bad across services, across manufacturing, and that's extremely worrying because up until now, the German economy has been kind of holding up just because the services sector has kept on motoring through. But that isn't the case anymore. It looks like the manufacturing weakness is now spreading into services, and that is really the only thing that was preventing Germany from falling into recession.
So, Jamie, I guess the key question here is, will Germany abandon its balanced budget policies and incur more debt in order to stimulate the economy, including what Angela Merkel was talking about on Friday with respect to fighting the effects of climate change? Do you see that as a more realistic possibility after the release of this data?
Well, I think that the closer that Germany comes to a deeper slump, the bigger the chances there are of a fiscal loosening. The trouble is that it may come too late because by the time you actually put these things into effect, the economy may already have slumped. So I think the trouble is that the German fiscal response may be too slow. That German growth turns negative and really actually slumps quite a bit over the next couple of quarters, and then you start seeing unemployment ticking up. And this, of course, is exactly the opposite of what the ECB wants to see.
So, Jamie, how much of this weakness we're seeing in Germany is trade related? Because we know there's such a big exporter around the world, particularly to China.
Well, I think it's easy to imagine that all of Germany's problems are due to the trade war, due to the Chinese economy slowing. But actually, there's more going on than that. That accounts for probably maybe about a third of the weakness. At least if you look at some of the ECB working papers on the subject, that's what it would tell you. The rest of the weakness is there's quite a lot of domestic stuff going on. So that the car industry is obviously huge in Germany. It's got some fairly problems. And there's no real sign that those problems are going to disappear anytime soon. Add into that the fact that you've got investment slowing around the globe, and Germany is, of course, a major exporter of investment goods. Things are looking tough.
So, Jamie, as an economist, I'm wondering how much of this slowdown that we're seeing in Germany is expected currently and priced into the models that people have out there. Do you have a sense of that?
Well, I think if you look at the pattern of GDP forecasts over the past year, the economy has clearly been doing much worse than most people have expected. So there's been a persistent forecast error. People have been too optimistic over the past year. And certainly if you look at the latest data, I don't think that what we're seeing in the business surveys is reflected in the consensus numbers yet for the economy.
So, Jamie, what we've seen in the U.S., and I think similar to Germany, is that while the manufacturing sector is seeing some weakness, the consumer continues to hang in there and power on the economy. Give us a sense of what you're seeing in Germany as it relates to the consumer.
Well, I think the general pattern with recessions is that you quite often see them start in the manufacturing sector and then spread over into services. And until this morning, really, there wasn't very much evidence that was happening in Germany. But now we're seeing it in the employment intentions subcomponent of the survey. We're seeing it in very early indications of it in the unemployment data. So I think that it's very likely that this is going to spread into services, and we are going to see growth in the broader economy slow, not just manufacturing.
Jamie Rush, thank you so much for being with us. Jamie Rush is chief European economist for Bloomberg Economics, talking about those dismal German PMI numbers showing that manufacturing just continues to drop off at an accelerating pace. And I think the most salient thing Jamie is saying, number of really important points there, but really the idea that the data has come in consistently below where economists have seen it, and he expects will continue to going forward. And really now the pressure is on the German government. What will be the response? Because honestly, negative yields just aren't cutting it right now.
No, and they've been pretty consistent, haven't they, in their response, saying, no, we want to maintain our balanced budget. We're not looking for aggressive fiscal stimulus, but maybe some of this economic data is going to be really putting some additional pressure on the government there.
And perhaps the point that J.B. Rush also made, will they do it quickly enough to actually be effective? We are seeing German 2-year yields now at a negative 0.35%, dipping a little bit. So we are getting a little bit of a bid for bonds that's bleeding over to the U.S. as well, as data in the United States also shows that the slowdown in manufacturing is bleeding into services. Right now, let's head to our 1991 studios in Washington, D.C. Nathan Hager with World and National Headlines. Nathan.
Lisa, President Trump has arrived at the United Nations, where he'll hold bilateral talks with several world leaders today, but it's his talks with the leader of Ukraine on July 25th that continue to raise questions for the president. Did he pressure Ukraine's leader to investigate Joe Biden? President Trump says he's, quote, not worried at all about impeachment talks.
We had a perfect phone call with the president of Ukraine. Everybody knows it. It's just a Democrat witch hunt. Here we go again. They failed with Russia. They failed with recession. They failed with everything. And now they're bringing this up. The one who's got the problem is Biden.
The president spoke to reporters before taking part in the UN's Climate Action Summit. He had been expected to skip the event in favor of a religious freedom event. The UK's highest court says it will decide tomorrow whether Prime Minister Boris Johnson acted within the law when he suspended Parliament. If the Supreme Court finds that suspension was illegal, Johnson could be forced to recall the legislature. That would give opponents of a no-deal Brexit time to thwart Johnson's plans to leave by October 31st. Hundreds of thousands of UK citizens are stuck after the collapse of tour operator Thomas Cook.
We were left in the lurch right until last minute. Obviously, customer services couldn't get hold of. The travel company we were travelling with, you can't get hold of them.
A man in Manchester, England had to rebook a flight to Cancun, but more than 150,000 fellow UK citizens are stranded overseas, and now the UK government's mounting its largest peacetime repatriation ever, dubbed Operation Matterhorn, using chartered jets to get them home over the next 2 weeks. Global news on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
To see something far away, you can either get a powerful telescope or you can go there.
Talk about export numbers, because they've been quite shocking. In Korea, we saw Singapore, Japan too.
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
How should investors be positioning?
When you take a look at the consumers in China, it remains challenging.
We go there.
To what extent is access to cheap credit part of the equation?
Tonight at 6 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You aced vehicle